Oh, motherfucker, you can't have my cornbread. That's for damn sure. Because if you try to take my cornbread, part 2 of my killing spree gonna begin up in here on your ass right now. If you think about my cornbread, they get the taste out your mouth. That's for damn sure. Now, fuck him. Fuck that. Because I'm from New York City, goddammit. Nobody take no cornbread from me. That goes for you and any other you motherfucking farmers wanna try some shit. You fuck around with me, it's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
Haters gonna hate. And Aim's gonna hate.
That's not an actual policy.
What's happening? What's happening, y'all? Maestro Styles, Trey Frazier. Welcome to the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast, another episode. We are here live on a Tuesday evening. First of all, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. Make sure you like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube page. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Maestro Styles. You can follow Trey at Trey Frazier on Instagram and at Barbershop SPOR2 on Twitter as he runs the podcast Twitter page on Twitter. That's why you see all the Ravens bias amidst a loss.
Yes, sir.
Trey, what's going on,
all
homie?
Day. Hey, man. Hey, Ravens all day, man. Even during the loss, bruh. I'm seeing a lot of social media stuff going on, man. Everybody trying to far out of town, and everybody wants to be done with the football team. And, it's like, nah, I'm going to ride or die with this team. I'm going to ride or die with Lamar. But we got to talk about the real, man. What went down, man. You and I, for the first time in months?
Yeah.
we're in the same room, watching this game. Man. So let me first just say.
Hold on. Let me just get right to the shits, cause let me get right to the shits. I need you to explain yourself as you are the runner of our podcast Twitter feed. I had a long day today, but at about lunchtime today, I'm checking my Twitter and I'm seeing this post where you retweet Max Kellerman's take on Lamar Jackson, basically saying he's 0-6 in high profile games, and your reply is, if Sunday's game was a high profile game, then you gotta count last year's games beating the Patriots, Seahawks, 49ers, Bills, Texans, Rams, and both Steelers games as high profile. Those teams were a combined 82 for 46. Enough of this big game narrative. Judge him in the playoffs. React. Explain yourself.
Well, why do I gotta explain myself? I'm just curious why you phrased it that way.
Well, if your dispute is that he's not 0-6, because of these, the Patriots, Seahawks, 49ers, Bills, Texans, Rams, and both Steelers games, if that's what you're saying, I don't agree with. I still don't agree with it. Then your second statement that I have an issue with is judge him in the playoffs where he's 0-2. So the narrative would still be, in my mind, if you're saying judge him in the playoffs, the narrative would still be he don't know how to win the big game. Because if I'm judging him by the playoffs, he wasn't good.
Okay.
He wasn't good.
Uh-huh. Okay, so let's go back to the quote unquote high profile game. And
And before I'm sorry. Let me be clear. I just want to make sure before you defend yourself, all my cards on the table. Are you implying that yesterday was not a high profile game?
Oh yeah, I am implying that it's a high profile game.
Oh, that it is. Okay.
However, if you're labeling a 1:00 game as a high profile game between two division rivals, records are not far off. Y'all was coming in 6-0. We were coming in 5-1. It's a high profile game. There's no debate on my end about that. What I have an issue with the post that Kellerman put out there was that he's talking about he's 0-6 in those games. And I'm assuming those 6 losses he's referring to are the one from Sunday, right? I assume he's referring to the
2 playoff games.
3 2019 and the one we just played them a few weeks ago. The other 2 games I'm assuming he's relating to is the Titans loss in the playoffs and then the playoff loss before that to the LA Chargers. Right. Okay, so all those games I don't think have all those games are in common in terms of they were. Wouldn't you say the Patriots game last year was a high-profile game? It was a Sunday night game. Everybody got to watch it. Would you?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Niners, who coming in as one of the hotter teams in the NFC last year, was that not a high-profile game? I believe it was. Was them going to Seattle to play a tough Seahawks team who was a playoff team last year not a high-profile game? I believe that was a high-profile game. When you look at the LA Rams game from last year, which was a Monday night football game that everyone watched, everyone and their mama watched this football game. Did we not stomp the Rams out 45-6? I think the majority of those, if not all those games that I listed in my tweet, those were high-profile games. Those were games against teams that made the playoffs this year.
Okay, here's where we.
This whole thing about being 0-6, like, okay, you just counting his losses, but okay, what about the ones he won? Okay. He beat some pretty good teams last year. Like, let's not try to act like those teams last year that we went against when we went 14-2 weren't big games.
Okay. Answer
and let me take it a step further.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Let me get your shit off.
Let me take it a step further because somebody on Twitter made this point. What about that Chargers regular season game in 2018 where we had to go to LA and face the Chargers? We beat the Chargers in LA. What was it, like week 16? I think it was. It was like either week 15 or week 16. I remember this Saturday night game. It was a national game, and we roughed Phillip Rivers up pretty good in that football game. Yeah. That Chargers team was a 12-4 football team.
I'm definitely not counting that.
Why? All
right, so let me break down where we disagree. Here's where we disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers-Ravens games are always going to be... Steelers-Ravens games are always going to... Well, I ain't going to say always. And if I'm being honest, those Steelers wins weren't big games last year. They weren't big games. We were a trash team. They were division rivalry games, so that adds something to it. But I wouldn't call...
Were y'all contending for a playoff spot last year? Were y'all in contention last year?
Sure. I don't think that holds a whole bunch of weight this right now. Here's why I don't call any of these games high profile games. These games, any of them? Not
the ones I listed?
The ones you listed. Not near one of them do I call them high profile games, and I'll tell you why.
I can't wait to hear this.
The reason why is because how I would categorize that run for the Ravens last year is these were coming of age games, meaning that the Pats, Seahawks, 49ers, Bills, Texans, Rams were all good teams, but we didn't know who the Ravens were yet. So the Patriots, we know the history of the Patriots, you know the history of the Seahawks, San Francisco, not so much. If you want to play the Deshaun Watson versus Lamar Jackson game, then maybe you could call that a high-profile game. And the Rams were they had just been in the Super Bowl, so it's like these teams were already good teams, whereas we were just through this stretch is when we were finding out that Baltimore is a good team. The reason why the Chargers game is a high-profile game is because it's a playoff game. The reason why the Titans is a big high-profile game is because it was a playoff game.
Of course.
The Chiefs game that was played this year is a high-profile game because the Ravens are now officially off of the MVP 14-2. They are officially a good team now that are playing the Super Bowl champions.
Okay.
That is officially a high-profile game now because we know what Baltimore do and we know what Kansas City do. This prior Steelers game, we know the 14-2 Baltimore Ravens are who they are, and now they're playing a team who everybody is, per se, and whether you agree with it or not, are talking about coming into this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the best team in the NFL coming into that week. On top of the fact that it's a division game, on top of the fact of Lamar Jackson versus Ben Roethlisberger, which we hadn't seen yet. Right. The only game that I feel like that in that 0-6 that Max Kellerman is talking about that might not have been a high profile game, and I'm only saying this because I don't recall which week they played the Chiefs, was the last year's Chiefs versus Ravens, when we didn't know that the Baltimore Ravens, even though they had the record, we didn't know that they were coming of age. This year,
that was week 3. That was week 3 last
year. Right. So in my mind, that's not a whole. To me, I would say he's 0-5 in high profile games because Baltimore wasn't Baltimore yet.
Okay, so what's that? So the other game you're missing from that lineup was the Chiefs game from 2018, which was I think that was a week 14 game.
Okay, yeah, I definitely not counting that game then. If that's in the 6th, I'm not counting that game.
Okay, well, he's lost how many games?
I thought he lost. I thought he lost twice to Patrick Mahomes. You're telling me he lost 3 times?
He's lost 3 times to Patrick.
Okay,
Mahomes.
Yeah. 2 of those I'm not counting.
Let me count his losses real quick up to this point. He's got 3 losses to Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. He's got the Chargers loss in the playoffs. He's got the Titans loss in the playoffs.
Yep.
He's got this loss he's coming off of, and he's got the Browns loss from week 4, I think that was last year.
Yeah, but that's not a high-profile game. The Browns is not a high-profile game.
No, right.
I'm only talking about those. I'm only talking about the 0-6 that Max Kellerman is talking about.
Right. So of those 6 games, you believe that 4 of those are high-profile games.
Right.
Okay. So you're saying the 2 playoff games plus the Chiefs from earlier this year, plus the Pittsburgh game from last week.
Yep.
You believe those were the
high profile games. Yep.
Okay. I disagree with the whole we didn't know who the Ravens were last year. If I'm not mistaken, Lamar Jackson did, and I get he didn't play the entire year in 2018, but he finished that season, 6-1. Mm-hmm. We went to the playoffs. We were a 10-6 football team. Now, if you want to tell me that, okay, we still couldn't, really figure out what was going on there. I would say I think we knew what this offense was going to be moving forward in 2019. Based off of what we seen the second half of 2018, I think we didn't anticipate MVP type level play.
Exactly.
We didn't anticipate that.
Exactly.
But we knew what type of team they were going to be in 2019.
We didn't go in 2019 thinking the Baltimore Ravens was a Super Bowl team.
No, I'm not talking about Super Bowl. I'm talking about style of play. We knew what this football team was going to be moving forward in 2019.
Okay.
What you saw in the second half of 2018 was what you were going to see in 2019, minus the MVP year, minus the Super Bowl contention.
Yeah, but that's a big thing.
Type talk.
That's a big thing. The difference between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens from 2019 to 2018 to 2019. I'm sorry, 2019 to 2018. 2019 to 2020. The difference is that 2019 we didn't look at the Baltimore Ravens as a Super Bowl caliber team until the season started. This year, coming into 2020, we look at the Baltimore Ravens as a Super Bowl contending team. So now the stakes are higher.
Okay.
So that's what creates high profile games in my book. And in Lamar Jackson's case, this is a high profile team. This is a Super Bowl contending team for all intents and purposes. When we started this season, it was Kansas City, Baltimore, and then everybody else.
Sure. So
I ruled all those games last year from 2019 when he was coming up. Nobody was talking about Lamar Jackson or the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe some people but nobody. This wasn't a thing until 2020.
Okay, so I think this is a situation where we have different opinions or different
of what a high profile game is.
Different definitions of what high profile, is. And I don't know what Max Kellerman's definition of what he was trying to put out there was. I think, in my opinion, he just was trying to lump all his losses minus the Cleveland game. That to me is what it sounded like he was trying to do. I think for him it was more. He was more looking at the quarterback matchup, it sounds like, because again, he counted all three Chiefs losses in my book. If you're saying 0-6, you're including all those three Chiefs losses.
Yeah, I agree.
I know you said you kind of throw the first two Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't count
those.
I don't count those. Yeah,
but I think the three of us, you, I, and Max Kellerman, I think we have different definitions of what high profile is. Well,
and here's why I'm challenging your definition of high profile again, because there were outside of the Baltimore Ravens playing football and trying to make the playoffs.
Yep.
There were no real stakes in that run. They were becoming the team that they are right now with the projections and with the expectations. They were becoming that team when they was on that run that you listed in your tweet. Now that they are that team, the expectations come with that. So you get dogged the way you got dogged against Kansas City earlier this year. Right. I won't say for the sake of an objective conversation, you lose the game the way you lost the game against Pittsburgh this past Sunday, and then the conversation is legitimate. I mean, you said it yourself. Lamar Jackson has to play better in these games.
No question about it.
In these games,
no question about it.
You know what I'm saying? We agree. I think low key we agree on what high profile games are. I just think you don't like the fact that he's shitting on your quarterback.
Well, no, his stat is incorrect, but his stat is incorrect. That if he's basing it off of, which sounds to me like quarterback matchups, which are, I would say Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson is a high profile quarterback matchup. I would say that Ben versus Lamar is a high profile quarterback matchup. If he's basing it off of that, then if you go back to last year, we're talking about Lamar versus Deshaun. We're talking about Russell versus Lamar. We're talking about Brady versus Lamar.
Yeah, but then that means you got to take out Jimmy Garoppolo because he's not that guy, and Jared Goff is not that guy. Josh Allen is not even that guy.
Sure. We semi agree there, but I think it's silly to say that none of those games last year.
I don't think any of them were.
I just think that's ridiculous.
The expectations weren't there.
That doesn't mean that it's not high profile.
I think high profile means
just because it's less expectations doesn't mean it's not high profile.
I think that's the very definition of what high profile is when both teams have expectations. I think that's the very definition of it.
So was Sunday night's Eagles-Cowboys game high profile?
No. It was just prime time because people like to watch Cowboys. That's a media game. That's not that was not a high profile game.
Okay, but it was high. It was high profile for that reason you just stated.
No.
You might not call it that.
No. That's not. Again, by my definition. Let me be clear. That's not high profile. That is viewers like to watch the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
So let's put them in prime time.
Yep.
Or
let's keep them there.
Yeah. There are no expectations. There were no expectations for Dallas to win. There were no expectations for Dallas to even be good. Hell, there weren't really expectations for Philly to be good. And for all intents and purposes, that was a shit game to watch. I watched Chappelle's show on Netflix. I cut it off.
I agree.
Yeah, so no.
I agree 100%.
So no, that's not a high profile. That's not a high profile isn't defined by what time you decide to put the game on TV, because we know that TV doesn't dictate high profile games. All you got to do is be a team that people like to watch on TV, and you'll get the primetime slot. So no, that's not a high-profile game.
So to you, high-profile games dictates we know who this team is, we know who that team is.
Big dog versus big dog.
This is a high-profile game.
Big dog versus big dog. That's a high-profile game to me. Big dog versus big dog, meaning good team versus good team. We know who these cats are right now.
Okay. Let me say this. I don't have a problem with your definition of that. I just have a problem with Max Kellerman's take on it. The fact that he just lumped all the losses minus the Cleveland loss in his career and said, "Oh, these are high profile games." Mm-hmm. And it's like, bruh, if you're calculating it based off of that, then you got to throw those games from last year into your conversation. That's what I would say to Max Kellerman.
Okay.
Is if you're gonna lump the Chiefs' loss from 2018 to 2019, you got to put that Seahawk W from last year in that record. You have to.
Yeah, I think that was coming. I think Lamar Jackson was officially becoming Lamar Jackson, the MVP Lamar Jackson. And I think that's what separates it from being a high profile game to what's going on now. Now, again, obviously playoff games mean something. So, yeah, you got to hold that down.
I agree.
Yeah, you got to hold those down.
Automatically playoff games are there regardless of the opponent or not. I do agree with that, because I think you and I think that the Chargers from 2018 last year, we didn't really know who they really were going to be. Because let's remember, the Chargers were coming off of some bad seasons before that, 12-4 season. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at the Titans, they're just coming off of getting rid of Mariota mid-season, and Tannehill comes in, and, they had the magical run they made.
Right.
So, yeah.
And now we know who the Titans are right now, and they're playing.
Now we know who the Titans are, right? Mm-hmm. And really, we know who the Chargers are now.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
But that's a playoff game,
we got to get into that, man. But, no, I just wanted to, but first, before we kind of talked about the game, I did want to say Ronnie Stanley, get well soon.
Yeah.
Had the ankle injury. That was a nasty injury right there.
And
Marlon Humphrey, get well. He tested positive. What's that?
No, I was just saying that he's done for the year, Stanley.
Yes, he is. Yeah. He's done for the year. Marlon Humphrey tested positive for COVID, so Marlon, get well soon. And they put like 6 other players on the COVID list,
right? Which
sounds to me like our game with the Colts is somewhat of in kind of a limbo for this weekend. I don't know what the deal is with where that's concerned. Look, man.
And then I wonder
I'm
how
gonna
that
go.
affects Pittsburgh, or does it?
Well, Pittsburgh tested negative today.
Okay.
They tested everybody today, to my understanding. So
Okay.
there's no positive tests on the Pittsburgh side. So y'all straight on that front. But I do want to kind of reference some interviews that I've been on. When season, during the football preseason before the season started, where I was on Jelani Brown's AFC North Roundtable. I know you remember you watching that, and me and the Pittsburgh guy kind of going back and forth about how I felt like Lamar needed to improve his game. And then when Chibs was on with us just a few weeks ago, I was saying the same thing. Hey, I need to see some improvement from Lamar. And both those cats was like, well, he threw 36 touchdowns. We had a nice, ratio. I mean, he can throw the football. And it's like, no, I'm not talking about his ability to throw the football. I'm not talking about the 36 touchdowns. I'm not talking about the stats.
We're not talking about the production more so.
I'm talking about the production. I'm talking about the efficiency. I'm talking about what you said just before I left your crib the other day, Maestro. He only is going to throw in the middle of the field. And every defense knows that. Pittsburgh's defense knew that. I just want to see you throw the back shoulder fade. I want to see you throw, that out route, outside the numbers. Because those are the throws that you're going to need to make in the clutch when it's big boy time, when it's, money's on the line, playoff spots, Super Bowls are on the line. I just need him to improve in just that part of his game. That's it. That's all I was talking about.
Yeah,
I know he can throw. I know we know he can throw. There's no doubt about that.
But it's easy to run. It's easy to run numbers up when all you're doing is throwing to Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst. I mean, it's. Tight ends are quarterbacks' best friends, especially when you ain't necessarily fully, calmed down and got your burns at playing quarterback in the NFL. Like, the first thing I'm gonna throw to was somebody right in front of me that's 6'5", 250 pounds. Like, obviously they're not that big tight ends, but around that, when they're around that size, that's the first thing I see when I'm in trouble. I'm gonna throw it right there. So
right there. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the tight ends. Willie Snead goes over the middle.
Yeah.
I've seen on several occasions Hollywood Brown go over the middle.
But we know who we're talking about. Mark Andrews is probably the third best tight end in the game. But he's getting the volume. He's getting the volume. Hayden Hurst got a contract based off of his production in Baltimore last year.
Right. So, and quite frankly, Hayden Hurst really wasn't that great last year. It was just the fact that we had two good tight ends, and they decided, you know what, Atlanta needs a tight end. Let's just, ship them off to ATL and let's get some draft picks back. That's what that was about. That really wasn't that. It wasn't that Hayden Hurst wasn't good. It was just because Mark Andrews was getting all the volume, like you said. So yeah, I mean, I think what has to happen moving forward, because I think the play calling too has been a little bit off, this season so far. And thank God we're 5-2, and that's great, but there's just something going on. And Hollywood Brown posted on Twitter the other day saying, "Yo, how you gonna have these soldiers and you're not using them properly?"
A little bit of AB coming out.
That was a shot, and I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, he had every right to.
Shot at Greg Roman.
Yeah,
and Hollywood Brown is absolutely right. Yo, run some plays for Hollywood Brown.
Yeah,
get him involved in the offense a little early. I think he had 2 catches yesterday, and he had a touchdown that wasn't a touchdown.
Yeah,
one where he didn't drag his feet there. So yeah, I would see Hollywood Brown get more involved in the offense. Now, as the season goes on and they somehow can't incorporate that, then that tells me a couple of things. Number one, either they don't think Hollywood Brown can work outside the numbers that way, or they think just Lamar Jackson, that part of his game is just not quite where they feel like it
What
needs
it
to be
needs
yet.
to be. Mm-hmm.
But at some, so at some point, as the season goes on, because, you know, I still got my hope for the AFC North, but I still feel really good about our goals this year as far as Super Bowl championship aspirations. We're still in line for that. I feel really good about that. But if we run into the Chiefs again, Pittsburgh, and really Tennessee, because until we play the Titans again, right now they got our number right now. So until you can prove it to one of those teams again, it's going to be the same old narrative as far as the playoffs go. You know, if he loses, go ahead.
I was just asking what week y'all got the Titans.
I think we either got them after this week or the following week. Okay. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's a home game for us. So it's probably after the Colts game.
Okay.
So yeah, we still got to prove ourselves against those kinds of teams, and right now, offense is just a little shaky right now. As far as turnovers go, that was the big reason we lost that football game.
100%.
The 4 turnovers, the 2 turnovers, the 1 pick six, and then the one coming out of the first half into the second half.
Yeah,
those were the 2 killers. Those were the 2 killers for us. You said something to me when we were watching the final drive there. Not the final drive, it was the second to final drive where we didn't get the 4th down there. You were saying something to me about you wouldn't take the 3 points there. You was asking me you wouldn't take the 3 points there.
Yeah, I remember recant that. Y'all should have did what y'all did.
Yeah, I'm like, hell no. I said hell no.
Yeah.
I get the concept. I understand that, you know, you kick 3 there, you're down by 1, you try to get the ball back.
Yeah.
And then and for real, now that I'm kind of really thinking about it, I can understand it a little bit more because we were moving the football against y'all.
Yeah.
So if it was just a matter of getting to field goal range, we could have did that. Because we were doing that, you know, the entire game.
Yeah.
So I get that concept. For me, it's my defense right now. They just gave up a quick touchdown to y'all after we took a lead. Yeah, my defense at that point, they kind of, I don't want to say they checked out, but I just didn't feel confident that had we kicked the 3 there and put y'all back on offense, that we weren't going to get the ball back in that situation.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel that way. I felt more comfortable going for it. And if we didn't get it, you guys were backed up at like, what was that? Like the 3 or
something
right.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt more comfortable because y'all were going to kind of play it a little conservative, being that y'all were, you know, further
run
back
the clock out.
Toward the end zone there versus being at like the 20 or the 25, if that makes sense. So,
how do you feel about the 4th and 3 play call?
I don't mind the play call. I just wish that
I saw it coming a mile away.
I wish they would have put somebody in the backfield next to Lamar because it was an easy giveaway, right? It was, you know, if somebody's covered, Lamar's gonna run. So to me, that's sort of what gave it away. I didn't mind the play call. I just wish that they would have kept somebody in the backfield with him to at least pose the threat of, okay, Dobbins could get the rock here or Lamar could get the rock there. But it was clear that it was only going to be one guy to make that happen, and it was going to be Lamar.
Okay, so we punt. We give y'all another chance to win the game. He throws a motherfucking dart down the middle to essentially wide open Willie Snead. Get y'all right back in that zone where y'all could win the game for a touchdown. Last play, I won't go through the whole sequence of time management and all that. And yes, I will. Should they have put time back on the clock?
I think they should have because somebody got hurt, right? Was that the situation?
Cam Hayward. I think Cam Hayward got hurt. They took the time. They took the time out. They did take the time out for injury. But they did not add time on the clock, and you saying they should have?
Yeah, I thought they should have. That probably was a good 5 seconds there. I don't. Yeah, I guess it would have made a difference because by the time he tried to get it to Snead, the clock ran out there. So if there was an additional 5 seconds, he would have had another play to run there. But as far as time management, I don't think it was a big deal in the regard that, they had 8 seconds and it wasn't like they had to rush to the line to get a play off.
Yeah.
They didn't have to rush in that situation because of the timeout because Cam got hurt. I will say, though, and it kind of goes back to my point about being able to throw outside the numbers. This is another reason that he's got to learn how to do that or do it more consistently because, man, we could have stopped the clock on several occasions on those drives too, man. Like if we would have, threw the out to somebody, got out of bounds, stopped the clock there, man, that would have been huge. But, because we throw in the middle of the field so much, we don't get that opportunity to, get ourselves set. The clock keeps going. We got to rush to the line. We got to spike the ball. And, when you saw on that Snead over the middle, that one play before we got to about the 20 or the 23, we had to rush to the line. We burnt almost 10, 12 seconds off the clock there. Yeah. And if that would have been like an outside throw and the guy would have been out of bounds, that would have stopped the clock at about a good 15, 16 seconds. And we would have been good from that point.
Hey, man.
Yeah,
I hear you. I got one more.
Go ahead.
John Harbaugh complains about the last play, essentially saying that there should have been a penalty. I think he said Fitzpatrick hit him in the head. He got a hit in the head or something like that. Any credence to his complaint?
I think he's just upset because we lost the game. Me personally, I didn't see anything that warranted a flag. I don't know what did you see?
Last play of the game, it got to be blatant. It got to be blatant. Both players were going for the ball. You going for the ball, you got a right to go try to get the ball. Both of them tried to get it. Yeah. I had no problem.
It's similar to last night's game. Dion Lewis going for the 2-point conversion, and Tampa kind of runs into Dion Lewis, and everybody's like, "Oh, they should have threw a flag there," and da 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 da. Nah, let them niggas play it out.
Yeah,
let them.
Unless it's something blatant. Unless it's something blatant, obviously.
Right, and I didn't think that was blatant, and I didn't think the Minka on Snead thing was blatant either.
Yeah. Well, I ain't gonna get into that off a win. All right,
I'm good. I'm good.
On the Pittsburgh side, not enough can be said about Ben Roethlisberger in the second half when they essentially gave up on the running game and was like, let Ben do what he do. And he delivered. I can't even say for the most part. He delivered in the second half. That's what 17 years of playing quarterback could get you. It wasn't nothing amazing. It was just him methodically going down the field and doing what a veteran should do in that type of situation when you can't get nothing really going for you. Number 2, Robert Spillane. Look, he is never going to be Devin Bush caliber linebacker, but he is playing his ass off at middle linebacker right now with the green dot. I know we just signed Avery Williamson, who I am happy we got, by the way. I'm happy that we got him, just to kind of balance it out for Spillane. Spillane is not as fast as Avery Williamson, so there's that. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah. I'm happy.
He played good for the Jets.
He wasn't bad.
A few weeks there.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. So I'm happy, and we got him for cheap, and it's not going to cost us any draft picks in this up and coming draft. The 2 picks we gave was in the 2022 draft. So and we only paying upwards of 1.87, I believe, is the number that we're paying him for the rest of the year. Cool. So Spillane gets the helmet gets the MVP on defense. Ben Roethlisberger for me gets it on offense. I do also want to point out one. Look, Tomlin did it last year with no quarterback, 8-8 season, and he should have been in high regard for Coach of the Year last year. This year, with his quarterback, he's 7-0. And people, and again, let me be very clear in an objective conversation: the Pittsburgh Steelers are not the best or most complete football team in the NFL right now. But Tomlin doing it right now, and I don't care what nobody got to say. If all intents and purposes, we finish this year 12-4, 13-3. He gets Coach of the Year for me.
Yeah, I would. On the Pittsburgh side, I would just call Sunday's game like a real like complete team win. Like I think it was like a tale of two halves, right? So offensively for Pittsburgh, I wasn't getting it going in the first half. The defense certainly kept you guys in it. Defensively, the 2 interceptions, the forced fumble, I think it was a fourth turnover. I forget how the fourth turnover came about, but certainly, being gifted just 20 yards, it definitely helps the offense. Is no question about it. And I think there were a couple other drives that Pittsburgh had where it was like, okay, we got to go to work. And one of the drives that I could think of was right after we took the lead back, which I think it was 24-21, I believe. We took that lead back, and then y'all just came right down the field.
Clutch catches by Juju Smith-Schuster.
Some clutch catches, a little aided by the refs, I'll say. I won't make excuses, but there was, we had some penalties on that drive that didn't help us on the defensive side that aided you guys. So that those penalties, I think there was like 2 penalties on that drive. I think one was 15 yards, and I think the other one was like a 10-yard penalty or something like that. So, penalties and turnovers, man. It don't matter how much you dominate a team on the ground. I think we had like 270 something yards rushing. Yeah, I mean almost 400 plus yards of offense.
Yeah.
When you look at the stat sheet, you think the Ravens won the football game, but
convincingly.
When you look, convincingly, but 4 turnovers, penalties, that'll do it, man. That'll swing momentum in another team's favor. It'll, it changes everything, bro.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
No disagreements. I'll just say it one more time. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 7-0. Going into Dallas. After that, Jacksonville, Cincinnati.
Yep.
Then obviously, and then I didn't realize this. Not only are we getting Pittsburgh, Baltimore on Thanksgiving, we are also getting Cowboys and Washington football team on Thanksgiving.
Oh God, they gotta, they gotta do something about that, yo.
Well, see, here's the thing. In the DMV area, Cowboys Redskins on Thanksgiving is always going to be a good thing, no matter who's the better or worse team. The whole Cowboys and Indians theme that goes with it. Obviously, they're not going to be the Indians.
They're not going to be that anymore.
Yeah, but that whole theme that goes behind it. Obviously, while this is, we're in D.C., the Dallas Cowboy fandom is, big in the DMV area. So, there's always that. Nothing warms my heart more on Thanksgiving than watching my kids' mother's family on Thanksgiving. Half of them is Redskin fans and half of them are Cowboys fans. And they all pile together in that house and, do what they do and, and argue and fight and talk Redskins. Football team and Cowboys. That's a good Thanksgiving feeling. So while it doesn't mean so much everywhere else in the world, in the DMV, that's always going to be a great Thanksgiving game, and that viewership is always going to be good in this area for that game. So
and keep in mind, they don't play each other on Thanksgiving every Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I
right,
think
right.
it's like maybe every 2
2 or
years,
3
every
years,
3
maybe.
years,
Yeah.
something like that. Because if I'm not mistaken, they played the Bills last year on Thanksgiving, right? The
Yeah.
Cowboys, that is. So
Something like that, yeah.
they played the Bills, I think it was,
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving. Because
But
I remember.
I feel like that should be just like the Packers and Lions are a Thanksgiving game every year.
Mhm.
And it might be hometown bias. I feel like Dallas and football teams should be a yearly thing.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I don't think I ever shared this with you, but I was thinking that maybe the NFL should start to think about an idea like similar to how the NBA schedules their basketball games on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It's all marquee matchups. Like it's not the Pelicans versus the Grizzlies or anything like that. It's, whatever team LeBron is on, he playing on Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
Steph, KD, AD, Harden, Westbrook, all those guys are playing on Thanksgiving
Right.
on Christmas, no matter, who the opponent is, no matter what the situation is. I think they should find a way to employ that idea with the NFL on Thanksgiving. Now, I understand why they don't do it that way, because I think they prefer more those like quarterback matchups, like if it's Mahomes versus Russell or something like that. Like I think they would prefer that to be like on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, where they probably get more viewership
Mm-hmm.
than on Thanksgiving. So I can understand why they don't, but I wouldn't mind seeing those kinds of quarterback matchups on Thanksgiving versus seeing the same old Lions every year versus seeing, the Cowboys and you probably got to put the Cowboys there because of the Cowboys. But I would have, for me this year, I would have found a way to put the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Ravens, Pittsburgh, possibly, Green Bay, and I'm thinking maybe the Saints. I would have thought about maybe putting those 6 teams on Thanksgiving and making those matchups. Of course, depending on how the schedule works and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, I find more. Rivalry games is what I think should be football on Thanksgiving. It should be
Sure.
rivalry games. So I agree with
Yep.
the Lions and Packers every single year. Again, I would agree with the Cowboys and the football team every year. I would agree with the Ravens in Pittsburgh every year. Those rivalry games where it's going to be a game because of the rivalries. I mean, obviously, like we know the Lions have been bad for
forever.
Yeah, so yeah, but there was a time where those games were competitive. I think it's more for me. I think it's more. It should be more about history. It should be more about those rivalries, those big time rivalries, like Lions and Packers have been since the existence of football. Cowboys
or Bears Packers
or Bears Packers. I wouldn't even be mad at that. Yeah, those caliber of games. And obviously those are the 3 biggest rivalries in NFL: the Baltimore Pittsburgh Cowboys football team, and Packers Lions, or Packers Bears will probably be 4. But
really, I think it could be Cowboys versus anybody else in the NFC East for real.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. That don't hold the same weight. And again, it may be hometown bias, but I don't think it is. I think the biggest NFC East rivalry is Cowboys versus football team. So that every year is going to get you the viewership I think that you want.
Okay. No, I think I'll say this. I do think it's hometown, bias. I do think that. I think if you're looking at the numbers, I think if you're looking at market size, Dallas versus the Giants. If you're talking about market size and viewership, that's probably the better matchup. Dallas.
Who do you think is a bigger football town, New York or DC?
Oh, DC's a bigger football town.
I get what you're saying, that they got more people, but I think more people are going to show. If we're talking about viewership, more people are going to watch. More DC consumers are going to watch that game than New York consumers are going to watch that game.
I agree with that. However, I think if you combine the numbers for a Redskins Cowboys game, versus the numbers for Giants-Cowboys game, I think Giants-Cowboys, I think the numbers would do more. And I understand the point about New York not caring so much about, it's not so much that New York doesn't care about football. It's more, DC cares a lot more about football. But because it's, the market size is so big in New York, you're going to have more people watch the Giants despite the fact that it's still a baseball town.
I mean, let's be clear.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but let's be clear. If the football team was a winning franchise, they'd be up there as far as fan base. They'd be up there with the mid-tier teams. They'd be up there with Pittsburgh. If they were winning, the fan base would be as rabid as some of these other teams. It's just that they're not winning.
I agree with. And if they didn't go through all this, well, I don't want to say if they didn't go through, the scandal and all that stuff, but there's still fans still rooting for this team.
And some of that, and let's be clear, if they were winning games, a lot of that we'd be trying to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, I think that's happening now.
As a fan, as a fan base, well, it's probably happening as a fan base too. But
right, that's what I'm saying. I think that's happening now with all the with all the stuff that's going on there. So, So I did just want to get to just a few things here. Did you see the fight in the Bears-Saints game?
Yeah, you were going to say Wims, who was suspended a game, I believe, for walking up on Gardner
Johnson, I think his name is.
Gardner Johnson, and hitting him in his face, and Johnson clearly.
So that was sort of a weird sequence, right?
The way I understand it via Twitter. Gardner Johnson had done something to Allen Robinson in a previous play, and I guess Wims took offense to it. So when that next play was over, I mean, you see the sequence. He wasn't even dealing with Gardner Johnson on that play. When the play stopped, he walked up to Gardner Johnson and just swung on him. So, me scrolling through Twitter, they were saying that they think, I forget, it might have been Steelers Depot I saw on Twitter that was saying apparently that this is what happened. Gardner Johnson and Allen Robinson had got tied up, and Wims didn't like that. Yeah. So on the next play or some play after that, he just walked up on him and threw some hands at him. And Gardner Johnson clearly didn't know what was going on. He got hit and was like, huh? Like, he clearly didn't realize.
Right. That's what was so weird about it. Yeah. I mean, without me knowing the backstory to it, when he just came up to homie and, swung on him, he was like, yo, what
is happening?
Right. And then he swung on him again. And then next thing you know, they tussling back and forth.
Yeah, let's be clear. Gardner Johnson didn't even throw a punch. Like, you could tell he was clearly in awe. Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, right. Like what's this, hockey or something?
How many times have you got a free punch on, like a free 3 hits on somebody and didn't drop them? My God.
And didn't do nothing. Right, didn't do nothing. Like not even swing. Like even if you missed them, like swing.
No, I'm talking about the fact that Christian Wims, I think his name is Christian Wims, didn't even like. I don't think Gardner Johnson had a concussion or nothing. I think he was like. No. I have never had a free 3 licks on somebody and didn't knock them clean out.
But I do have a little smoke to give to Wims in this regard.
Oh, let's be clear. That was a bitch move.
Yeah, that too. But you gonna hit a nigga with his helmet on? Like, I think we've had conversations in the past about dudes trying to throw punches in dudes' faces, and niggas still got their helmets on. It's like, yo. What you trying to hurt your hand? Like I'm not hurting my hand if you got a helmet on. Yeah. Like, you take that helmet off and let's go at it. I'm not gonna hurt my hand because of you.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, obviously, Wims should have been suspended and all those, all those things that should have happened.
The league got it right with this one.
Yeah, I mean, because it wasn't a big deal, so it's not like you throw them out for 4 games. But I mean, it was a fight. That's what happens when you. That's what happens when you fight. You should get suspended. I don't know if he was ejected again. I would assume that he was ejected immediately.
He was.
Yeah,
He
I would
was.
assume that he was ejected immediately, and so all those things.
No doubt, no doubt. Is the Pats dynasty over?
Past dynasty is over. I hate it. I hate it for Cam Newton, but
Yep.
good riddance. Yeah, good.
I think
good.
we got to clap
Good
that
riddance,
Patriots are 2-5 right now, and
they have no means of coming back from this.
I am loving this.
They have no means.
And
of
I hate
back.
it for Cam.
I hate it for Cam.
Clear. I hate it for Cam Newton.
Because let's be clear, they're going to spend this for Cam to not get his bread next year. Let's be clear, he's on a $550,000 contract, and when it's time for 1 year, so when it's time to come back, which I would hope that the Patriots would sign him again, give him some money. But they can't give him $40 million now. They can't do it.
So I had this interesting back and forth on Twitter, and I think Steelers Depot on Twitter there.
Yeah.
It was an interesting back and forth. So he posted something and said, if Tomlin was able to do what he did with the team last year and go 8-8, what does it say about Belichick this year and not being able to, even sniff that? And I guess in the Patriots' defense, because I really wasn't trying to defend the Patriots because I hate them so much.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be real. I don't think the Steelers' situation last year even compares remotely to what the Patriots have gone through this year. When you talk about the best players on defense opting out to not play, quarterback testing positive for COVID, when you talk about the facilities being closed for a couple of weeks, and you talk about a game being shifted to a Monday night to having a bye week come earlier than you expected to. None of that stuff happened with Pittsburgh last year.
Yeah, you're right. I think a better argument, if you were to defend the Patriots, a better argument is that this defense is trash. They have no young gunners. They have nobody on offense. See, here's the thing. The Pittsburgh Steelers last year had an elite defense. They have an elite. It was an elite defense last year.
Right.
And they still like as we speak today, that defense with all those young guys haven't reached their full potential yet. Guys like Cameron Sutton, guys like Tuitt, guys like Spillane, hell, Bud Dupree, who may not even be here next year, but he hasn't really got there yet. They got so many youngins. Devin Bush. I mean, I know he's on IR now, but I mean but Devin Bush hasn't reached his potential yet. So they got young boys who haven't even really developed into the players that they may or may not be. Javon Hargrave, who's not there anymore. Like they had young boys who was just flying. So we became an elite defense. Once we brought Minka over. The Patriots don't have that kind of defense last year, the year before, and certainly not this year. They don't have that kind of defense. They got Gilmore. Right. Obviously, they got the Defensive Player of the Year. But, I mean, looking at T.J. Watt might be the Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Right. Like, I think you're right in terms of the players themselves compared to the players in New England.
I just think that would have been a better argument to Steelers Depot. That look, the Steelers had a top 5 at worst, top 5 defense at worst.
But wasn't the Patriots good on defense last year too?
I'm sure they were okay, but I'm not talking about stats per se. Like they may have statistically been a top 5 defense, but they weren't the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Right, that I agree with. Yeah, and that's why I said I think in terms of the players on the Steelers last year versus the players on the Patriots last year.
Or this year, because that's the comparison.
Well, this year is the comparison, but players opted out. I think that's the more glaring comparison.
Who opted out again?
Dante Hightower. Trying to think of the
And
other
that's a big
name.
piece, by the way.
Patrick Chung.
Okay, yeah, those are big pieces to that defense.
And it was 3 other guys, but they were the more important players in that
of
defense.
That team. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so in my head, I'm thinking if these players hadn't opted out, I don't think they're 2-5. I think they're more like 4-3 if those players don't opt out.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if they were saving that team like that because that offense is still trash.
Yeah, offensively, they're
trash.
Yeah, they're just not good. I mean, and maybe the defense with those players not opting out, maybe they would have won some extra games for them. You know, who knows?
Maybe.
They were doing that last year. Let's be real. We talked about the Patriots' offense not being what it was last year, and we talked about the defense rising to the occasion in certain games last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they were terrible. They just weren't Pittsburgh, like you said. They were maybe not middle of the pack, maybe
I would say
bottom of the top 10, maybe.
Statistically, I get stats, and you got to live by that. When I look at, you ain't got to live by that, but that at least has to be involved in your decision making. But I don't think that team. Just looking at that team play, I don't know that they were a top 10 defense. I would say they were middle of the pack. I would say they were middle of the pack. Yeah, but I think that would have been I think that would have been a better argument to that, to their argument if you spoke to the talent on this year's Patriots team to the talent on last year's Steelers team.
Right.
I mean, because yes, COVID-19 has obviously been impactful for everybody, but we're talking about 2 weeks that the Patriots had to deal with what they were dealing with.
When it comes to COVID, yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to COVID, yes.
But obviously, Patrick Chung, Hightower, and maybe, but I didn't even see that in your argument, and I didn't watch the entire back and forth. I saw their comment and your reply, and then that's all I saw. So
I mentioned the fact that the defensive players opted out. Okay. I mentioned that. I mentioned COVID. I mentioned the facilities being shut down, not being able to practice. I mentioned that as a combination of things that are contributing to why the Patriots are 2-5.
Yeah.
And again, I think the point that they were trying to make is, hey, what is this really saying about Bill Belichick? Or what is it really saying about the way they've been drafting players? Because we kind of talk about the Patriots draft, and, Tom Brady has put a mask on this thing for so long that now it's starting to get exposed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and like I said, much props to Mike Tomlin, because in my mind, and clearly for me right now, he's the coach of the year for me right now. And that's not a.
He's a candidate.
I think he's coach of the year right now.
No doubt.
Because if you couldn't give it to him when he was, putting it together with that bum team, and right now he's putting it together with majority of the parts he needed. Now he's undefeated. Right now, it's no argument for me. Right now. Obviously that could change as the season goes along, but right now he's coach of the year, and I'm putting my vote in for T.J. Watt defensive player of the year right now.
So if you're the Browns right now and you just lost this football game to the Raiders, came into your own building, low scoring game, it looked to me like Cleveland couldn't get nothing going on offense. I know I'm looking at the score here, but it just seemed like they couldn't get nothing going against a Raiders defense that I really don't think is really that good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good the Raiders are, but I know ain't nobody talking about them on defensively, so you should be able to move the ball.
So to me, that's more an indictment on the Browns.
Yeah,
and I get that Odell Beckham's gone for the year, so you got to make adjustments. But you still got Jarvis Landry, right?
You
still got Kareem Hunt, right?
Yeah, I'm not shooting them. I'm not shooting the Cleveland Browns bail on the Odell Beckham thing being out against the Las Vegas Raiders. Not doing it.
Yeah. I'm with you there.
Should
Browns fans be concerned?
Concerned about what? They're overachieving.
That they missed the playoffs.
No, I think they'll still make the playoffs. But let's be clear, they're overachieving right now. If you're looking at what they did last year,
of course, and with less expectations this year,
right?
They're finally getting the due that they deserve. Now the schedule is helping out when you play the NFC East.
Yeah, they're a middle of the pack. They're a middle of the pack team, but schedule, strength of schedule, like you said, and then conference. I mean, the conference.
Yeah.
The NFC is a better conference right now than the AFC is. Now they've caught up as opposed to previous years.
I'm gonna say I think the AFC is caught up this year.
Yeah, but the NFC is still the better division. I mean, conference. I'm sorry.
Right. I think when we're talking records, the AFC has caught up, but in terms of the quarterback play, the NFC has that. They not only do they got the records to prove that, but they got the quarterbacks in that conference that make them, a complete better conference.
Yeah, I mean, because when you talk about AFC quarterbacks, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, you got to put but before Ben, Ryan Tannehill. But we still don't really even though we should be giving him his props, we still don't really believe Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is probably, me thinking about it. I mean, let me see if I can think about it really quick. He's probably the third best quarterback in the conference.
Ooh,
Ryan.
So you
Tannehill.
got Mahomes number one. So you got Mahomes 1,
Lamar Jackson 2,
Lamar 2, and you got
Ryan
Tannehill 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's. I'm sitting here trying to make sure I'm remembering every quarterback in the conference. But
Phillip Rivers ain't playing great quarterback right now, so I wouldn't put him in no top 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in no top 5 situation. Ben, I would give Ben number 4.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. And for real, and I know he's on a bad team. I put Deshaun at number 5, bro. I'm sorry. I know his team is not doing great. I know they're irrelevant, but his stats are still pretty good, man.
Over Justin Herbert? Over Joe Burrow? I'm just asking. I'm only talking about this year.
Right. I think definitely over Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Herbert, I gotta check his stats. I know he's been balling though. I know he's been balling. So I don't know. I think that number 5 spot is a toss up there. So Tua got got his start.
Yep.
Didn't do much. Didn't really need to do much.
Right, clearly.
In this game. And it's crazy because I think Skip Bayless has already, put the narrative out there that Miami might be looking for another quarterback next season, which that's more about just getting clicks. And
I'm about to say, I don't think he'd do it for clicks. I'll say that about Skip. I don't think he'd do it for clicks. I just think he has interesting takes on things. I would be interested to hear what that conversation was.
Yeah, I would be too. And to me, it sounds more like because Tua didn't shine like that in his first start. Yeah, compared to Joe Burrow and compared to Justin Herbert, I think that's where that conversation kind of led to.
Yeah, I won't put no stock into that if that's where.
Right. Nah. You just got to give credit to the Miami defense, the Miami special teams.
Yeah.
And
the Rams I won't say the Rams are trash, but.
Well, you did say last week that if they want to make some noise in the NFC, they got to beat the Dolphins.
They got to beat the Dolphins.
And you did say that last week,
and they did.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are, bro.
Right.
So speaking of that division, so the Niners got some injuries, right? So Garoppolo's going to be out.
Yeah. Kittle's is out.
And Kittle is out pretty much the rest of the year. Yeah. So, man, I don't think they're going nowhere, bro.
Nope.
I think that's a wrap for the Niners, bro.
Make this a little easier for the Cardinals.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And the Rams for that matter.
And yeah, good point. But I still got to see them because they've already played the NFC East already.
Mm-hmm.
So I still got to see what they do the rest of the way. I know they still got the Patriots. They got the Jets left to play. They still got some other teams. I think they play the Bucks too, and that'll be tough for them to get by.
That'll be a loss for them.
Oh yeah, that'll definitely be a loss for them. So the Chargers blew another 17-point lead, bruh.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. It's crazy because I'm watching the end of the Saints game, and I did notice the score, like the Broncos was coming back in the game, like they was down by like 10 or 7 points, and I never saw the score from that point on, and I didn't find out till like later that night that the Broncos won the football game. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I think this is the third game where they've blown a 17 or more point lead this season. Should
Anthony Lynn be fired at the end of the year?
God, bro, man, and that's who I'm worried for. Bro.
Yeah, let's just ask the real question.
Anthony Lynn.
Well, worried is one thing. Another thing is, look, Phillip Rivers was there last year, and these same things was happening. Like, the story for the Chargers for the past 3 or maybe 4 years has been them not closing games. Now, his entire tenure, that
which
narrative,
I don't think it was his entire tenure, because who was the coach before that? I think it was who's the guy that used to run the Broncos offense? Mike McCoy. I think was the coach.
Right, but when he left.
And that stuff was going on when Mike McCoy was still there.
For certain. But my point is that when he was fired and Anthony Lynn was brought in, he's been there for 2-3 years now. This problem still has not been fixed after 3 years. So yeah, Mike McCoy may have started the problem, but Anthony Lynn hasn't been able to fix the problem.
Right, and I think you got to throw out the 12-4 year in 2018.
They were still losing big games. They would still get that narrative.
Were they losing?
I'm sorry, the narrative. I was about to say the narrative was still existent in that 12-4 season. Now maybe it didn't happen as often as it did. Clearly, they went 12-4.
I was gonna say they lost 4 games.
Yeah,
and I don't remember what those 4 games were.
Neither do I. But that narrative, that stink was still on the Chargers as a team. That they weren't closing games. Now, they might have done it better that year, but that narrative was still prevalent for the Chargers as a team. Anthony Lynn has yet to fix that, is all I'm saying. So after 3 years,
I think the narrative is getting worse in a sense that now it's changed from the Chargers can't close games to the Chargers are blowing 17-point, double-digit leads to lose games to where these are soul crushing, like these are Falcon like losses, right?
Yeah, right.
like these are this is like the Atlanta Falcons of the AFC. Like these are the type of losses that are just like soul crushing, make you want to punch your mama in the face type losses. Like I'm worried for Anthony Lynn, man. I really am. I'm afraid he's going to lose his job.
What should they do, in your opinion?
They should.
Let me throw a scenario at you. The Chargers go 9-7, miss the playoffs, and they have and out of those 7 losses,
which will be hard.
But out of 7 losses, let me make it easier. They go 8-8, and out of those 8 losses, they have given up at least 10-point leads 3 times.
And I know what you're gonna say. For me that's a tough one. That's just a tough one. I think what's gonna happen, he's gonna end up losing his job. That's what I think. That's not what I want. I want Anthony Lynn to keep his job at least another year.
How many years does he have to fix this after his 3rd year in your mind then?
I think he has 1 more.
Okay.
Because it's clear they got the quarterback that they want, right? That's clear.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get everybody back.
They got a decent wide receiver core right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Decent running
They got
game.
a wide receiving core. Derwin James, even though he's had some health issues, he's still one of the best safeties in the game. Mm-hmm. They do have talent on defense. Melvin Ingram is still there.
Bosa.
Joey Bosa is still there. I would give him one more year.
Okay.
It's just too much talent to just.
I'm not mad at that.
What I'm saying?
I'm not mad at that.
It's just too much talent. Give him another year, and if the same problems keep happening where they can't close games, they're blowing double-digit leads, then you let them go after that.
Okay. No disagreement here.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Just other little small notes, like there was a lot of upsets this weekend. Like you had the Vikings beat the Packers, and Dalvin Cook just had a monster game. I think he had like 4 touchdowns, 160 something yards rushing.
Shout out to
something
him.
like that. Yeah. Shout out to him.
I mean, I can't really pretend like look. Anomaly. There's no. I can't.
Yeah.
Anomaly.
No question. I don't. I'm not saying that the Vikings are all of a sudden they're back. Like no, I'm not saying that.
Or that they were ever there to begin with.
Yeah, right. It's a head scratcher though on the Packers side for certain though.
Sure,
because they did just lose to the Buccaneers, which is a good team, just a couple weeks ago.
But they lost to the Buccaneers, and that was a clunker. It wasn't like they just lost to the better team. They had a clunker against the Buccaneers.
Right. So yeah, I think it's a head scratcher, but I think the Packers will be fine.
Yeah.
And then you got the Titans. I think they were dominated by the Bengals from the jump. Kind of look. Score and the in the playlist and all that. I think they were dominated.
See the thing that bothers me about the Titans loss, is this team for real? And last week we said this team was for real, and I think it was really more based on the South, that the Division 1 and 2, obviously Derrick Henry. But Derrick Henry has a good game for all intents and purposes. It wasn't like those 150 yard, 200 yard games that he can have. But he had over 100 yards. He had a touchdown. What happened?
I think this defense just isn't good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it last week against Pittsburgh. And now you're seeing it against the Bengals.
But see, we gotta ask for real. Is this team for real? And I guess that if we're talking about playoffs, that doesn't change. But did the Titans come in? The Titans came into the season with expectations because of
what they did in the playoffs,
and then bringing back those key pieces. It's like, okay, they should be doing some of the same things they did last year. This team can go to the playoffs at 9-7 in that division,
right?
But then what happens in the playoffs?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so predicated on Derrick Henry going crazy that we just don't know. We just don't know if he's going to go crazy. If everybody takes on the idea of stop Derrick Henry at all costs, we don't believe that Ryan Tannehill can win a game.
Right.
No,
even though there's a couple of regular season games from last year where that happened and he came through, but regular season we don't care about that. All that proves is that you have the ability to do it.
Right, which means you need to do it in the playoffs.
What about the moments? Like when it really counts and the stakes are high.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the moments at this point. We know you can do it. We know you can do it. It's just.
But then let's be clear. In the playoffs, Ryan Tannehill didn't have to do nothing. Let's be very clear.
No, he didn't.
He didn't have to do a thing.
Right.
But hand the ball off and not fumble it on the handoff.
Right. And it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
I mean, cats are acting like the team took the ball out of his hands. No, Derrick Henry just ran wild. And when you got a guy that can run wild, why the hell would you go away from that?
But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. But Tannehill had when the Chiefs in that conference championship, Chiefs said, "Hey, nah, you're not going to beat us."
Right.
Now, can you go toe to toe with the big dog?
Yep.
And he couldn't do it. So
Yeah. Nah. He couldn't do it.
I don't believe him. Sorry,
Couldn't do it.
I don't believe him.
Couldn't do it. But he is having a good year.
He's having
so
a good
far.
year, and he should be respected for the year he's having in the regular season. But when
The
it all
contract-
comes down to it,
The contract right now, so far so good. No, it's not a waste at this point.
Yeah, and I don't think as long as they keep Derrick Henry happy, I don't think it'll be a waste because as long as Derrick Henry is there, I'm sorry, any competent quarterback should be able to go to the Titans with that run game and be effective.
Yep. And you have some pieces on offense that do have a ceiling, like A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
I still believe has a ceiling. I believe that Jonnu Smith has a ceiling. So
meaning his potential hasn't been tapped yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
AJ Brown for certain. Jonnu Smith, I don't really have a real opinion on, but AJ Brown for certain has the potential to be one of those dudes at wide receiver in the NFL. For certain. The Titans. You can't say they faking because they're going to win a division. But when it comes down to it,
are we certain about that though? They're in a tie with the Colts right now.
Let me say I am certain about it.
Okay.
I'll say that I'm certain about it.
Because as much as I don't love the Colts this year, just because of Phillip Rivers, that defense, that Colts defense is a better defense than the Titans defense right now.
Yeah, but I don't believe Phillip Rivers in the end.
So we agree.
I don't believe Phillip. I believe Derrick Henry against that Colts defense. Then I believe Phillip Rivers against that Titans defense.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see about that.
Yeah.
I got nothing else, man, except I heard something crazy this afternoon about the NFL potentially adding an 8th playoff spot in both conferences for this year's playoffs.
Miss me with that bullshit.
And it's like, why?
Look, I'm not even a fan of 7 teams for real, but I'll take it, right. But, miss me with that.
Yeah, it was like a brief headline, right? So they were saying something about it has to do with COVID, and I'm like you gotta miss me with that because is this about not wanting certain teams to miss the playoffs,
or is it about that way? New England
is it
Patriots,
about that?
New England
Patriots?
Yeah, right. But more than that. Or is it really about, we might have missed out on some money with preseasons and tickets and, limited fans in the stands. Let's add one more. Let's see if we can get one more game in there.
Right. Because what's the format now? Right? Because what's the format now? So you go 8 teams. That means everybody's playing, right? Nobody gets a bye, right?
Right. You would think. Yeah, you would think. I mean, they could do something and, it'd be some kind of other way. But, yeah, you would think so.
Because if you have, right now, with the 7-team format, only 1 team per conference gets the week off, which means those other 3 games per conference, you're going to get winners out of those 3 games, and then you still got 4 teams left. Divisional round.
But you could, but with 8 teams, you could go back to giving 2 teams the bye, and then just have 3 games as opposed to 2, right? And wild card round.
Yeah, but then But then at least 5 teams left per conference if you give 2 teams the bye.
If there's 8 teams and you take away 2, that's 6 teams.
No, but what I'm saying is. If you give 2 teams the bye and you give the other 6 teams in the conference to play, that's 3 games. So one of those teams are going to win. So you'll get 3 winners,
right? And then
plus those 2 teams that had the week off. That's 5 teams. So what do you do from that point?
Right. Yeah. I don't know then.
So I don't know what that conversation.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't know why that's a headline. I mean, I don't agree with it one way or the other. So
I don't agree with it either, unless they got a surefire plan on how they're gonna, format that.
But one way or the other, they're talking about, but in my mind, one way or the other, they're talking about getting extra games in. And when we're talking about the playoffs, you're talking about, maybe them allowing more fans into the stands, that type of thing. So,
yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, miss me with that. Y'all, that's a money grab.
Yeah, right.
That's a money grab.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Hey, I'm good, man.
Yeah.
You could close us out.
Listen here. Hey, first of all, appreciate everybody for listening. If you were in the chat room, if you catch it on demand, we appreciate you. Shout out to Big Cap 303 A1 Day 1. We see you play up. Follow us on Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. Make sure you like the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow me at Maestro Styles on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow Trey on Instagram at Trey Frazier. You can follow him on Twitter at Barbershop SPOR2 as he runs our Twitter page. The reason why you see Ravens bias amidst them losing or maybe one day even being trashed.
You're damn right.
He will be biased. So that's where you see it from. That does not reflect the opinions or views of Maestro Styles more times than it does.
Go to Maestro Styles' page for that. All that Steeler talk. Go to Maestro Styles' page for that.
So for Trey Frazier, Maestro Styles, man, we love you. See you next week.
Peace.